Yes, interactive. I don't like to talk and talk too much. I like questions and answers. Got some facts and figures up here about things, but more importantly, some use cases. I thought we could talk through some of those as they're relevant to where we are in the market space today. You would have just seen this flash up. It's part of the Forrester's report that was commissioned very recently to look at, how much do companies save when they move to this interconnected orientated architecture that Equinix prophesy about. It's massive. The economies of scale beyond just saving OPEX and CAPEX, reach into application performance by reducing latency everywhere. And I'm going to talk a little bit around some of these key facts as we go through. You have a lovely brochure on the enterprise of the future. That's a thought leadership piece that we had commissioned. So it's very independent, interviewed how many hundred CIOs, CEOs? Many. And this was their input back as well. So it's not just the voice of Equinix, it's the voice of our customers and the voice of the target audience and the areas we operate today. And something else very relevant, we talk around the 4 pillars of people, location, clouds and data. I'll come on to that in a little bit. I just have a couple of slides to set the scene for us. Digital technology, we're all in the forefront of evolution and change in this disruptive market space today. You would have seen many articles in the news about people doing de-commerce, de-business. What does it truly mean and why are they doing it? And here are kind of the 6 areas for consideration that we see day in and day out. Everything from the smack stack, how do I integrate with my ultimate consumer and clients? How do I use social media, data analytics to better understand my product placement? Through to real-time collaboration. There's some great examples that we have around the legal industry and their e-filing systems, court record alignment, instant collaboration on the go, on site, in court, etc. But of course, underpinned by privacy and security. It's probably everyone's biggest concern when moving to cloud, when transitioning out of an IT-owned infrastructure into maybe a managed, outsourced, co-located, etc. We've been down a bit of a journey. Started off with mainframe computing a long while back, and we moved into the network era. We started hooking things up on a massive scale. The internet was born, the World Wide Web was created, and then we moved into the connected era, mobile device connectivity. Doing peering with internet exchanges, so that when BT talks to Singapore Telecom to access sites, there's a handshake that goes on there. There's an interconnection and trust that goes on there. And now we're into what we're terming the interconnected era. And this is more important and relevant today because at the end of the day, like we've all been here, shaking hands with people, getting to know people, that's exactly what happens in enterprise business as well. You have partners, supply chain, consumers and customers. They all need to have a handshake. And the interconnection era itself, which we'll come on to in a second, is kind of underpinned by these 4 pillars of people, location, data and cloud. So let's look at some of the challenges that I personally see in the space today. We have, a new generation of folk coming in who are highly transactional. They understand what they want to do in a job and they execute against it very well. And we are having, I guess, a real challenge with HR mobility, getting the right people, the right skills in the right locations. We have to reach further, we have to reach smarter. There are more places for that data to reside. Russia being the latest to obviously influence and impose data restrictions on what can and can't leave the country. We've had it with Euro data protection for many years now, Singapore 3 years ago. There are these data hubs being created that we need to somehow engage, excite, agitate and leverage. I should just let this draw out. What this is showing is the complexity of interconnectivity. These are real-world challenges today. Some of the organisations we work with, they're global. They don't, do things by halves. But I guess, the third of the business that we react with in the UK is very focused on the channel itself, from north to south and into Benelux. So I guess the challenges that we see from a wider area network perspective, with latency problems, application development problems and distribution, they're not so prevalent in EMEA because we don't have a massive latency issue. We can do east to west EMEA in sub 80 milliseconds, but in the States that's 220. To Japan it's another 100 on top of that. So bandwidth management, latency issues are probably the biggest challenge that we've seen. But why is that important? It's because we're moving from systems of records where we have the data, we own the data, understand the data. It could be structured or unstructured, but it's in our campus. But really that's out of date as soon as it's in that database. Someone's had another thought, someone's done another thing, and something has to happen on top of it. And we're moving to systems of engagement. So these are, the social media analytics and cloud content coming through. This is how train organizations operate with their customers, with the delay repay, for example. There was talk initially that rather than saying your train's, or finding out your train's late when you get to the other end, they tell you it's late. And rather than doing the delay repay, they say, look, I'm going to email you a voucher for a free coffee at the other end. Great idea. That's a huge administration pain out of one end, and it's probably lower cost to refund a token back to the customer as well. So we're looking for systems of engagements. We're looking to be smarter with our customers. In fact, in the news only yesterday, Unilever came out as saying that their digital business was 40% that of expected while having e-retailers, consumer-ended portfolio product placements, etc. Now, if you think about the industry average, which is just under 20%, all the money that they've invested to get effectively a first mover advantage and gain a 40% marketplace with that is astounding. And this is, I guess, where people like Unilever and other larger organizations have thought, you know what, if I carry on doing what I'm doing, it's fine, but I'm going to get to a tipping point where I can't do it myself anymore, or I run out of capacity, or the industry progresses so quickly that it leaves me behind and I don't innovate, or they blame innovation for it. So the workload itself, it spirals out of control. I mean, let's take Hallmark as an example. Their busiest day of the year, Valentine's Day, or that week before. It's the rest of the time they could not really have an infrastructure in the cloud at all and just have a baseline infrastructure of their own. It's tiny. Same with the tourism and leisure industry. All holidays are booked in the blue months, January and February, every year. The rest of the time, they could probably run it on one server. I exaggerate. But they identify what their tipping point is, because if they don't do something here, then the economic loss can be astronomical. So, coming on to people, location, clouds, and data. I guess this is where I'd like it to be a little bit interactive. What do you see as people challenges today? What do you see as location challenges as well? Are we dispersed? Are you dispersed? What are your challenges accessing cloud? Do you have multi-cloud strategies, etc.? I'm going to flick through this one because this is kind of where it all drives. If we understand the four pillars of interconnectivity, and that we understand that we need to push things to the very edge of where our customers are, give them the best performance, the best quality of service, so that they stay sticky with us, so that they buy from us on a regular basis, because heaven knows how many times you get to a web page, it crashes, and you think, well, I'm not going back there again. Or, I might as well just go to Amazon. I know that's always up, I trust it. We need to have that performance side of any web-based digital solution. But also the ecosystems that support it. SAP is a fantastic example. They obviously have multiple customers who share a slice of infrastructure, who then share a slice of connectivity with third-party partners, travel logistics organizations, HR services, and it all comes together as an ecosystem. Equinix did this very well many years back with the financial institutions. Companies like BATS and C-Trade and stuff. They had the density in our data centers, and people wanted to be close to that for high frequency trading, low latency trading, etc., etc. So an ecosystem was formed. And the same is true with enterprise. We're doing a lot of work in the automotive space right now and the aerospace industries. because they are highly complex supply chains. They have many partners that rely on systems that the automotive industry own, run and manage. They don't want to recreate this stuff just for a part-time use of a